Okay, so you are going to transfer over your thesis statement from your big outline, your green box. You're simply copying it over word for word. You're not paraphrasing, you're not doing anything like that. You're just copying it over word for word. Onto your introduction. Out down here at the bottom, where it says thesis. Did we finish the rebuttal too? No. Okay. Go ahead and copy that thesis over, then we'll go back to the rebuttal. Because you technically already have the rebuttal written. I'm just going to give you the sentence starter for it. So your first priority is copying over your thesis statement word for word. So it should start with Native Americans should or should not have been removed to Western lands because blank. Just copying that over to your thesis row. Same thing you wrote in the big green box. Okay, now if you're ready to move on to your rebuttal, I'm going to give you your sentence starter. Your sentence starter for your second, because you already have the counterclaim, right? We did counterclaim? Yeah. Okay, so we just need the rebuttal. So your sentence starter for the rebuttal is going to be, although some believe this, and then a comma. Although some believe this. And then you're going to put whatever is in this box, your rebuttal box. Because you should have already written the rebuttal in your big yellow box. Although some believe this. In your rebuttal row. Where, remember I told you, pretend like somebody sassy came up to you and said, you're wrong because of this. And then you refuted them. That's what you're putting there. In your rebuttal. Do you want a pencil or a pen?
I can just take a pen.
Here you go. Sorry. What's up? Into your second row here. Into your...
We're not writing down our actual...
Right here.
Like, our actual...
You should have already written the counterclaim.
With the rebuttal.
You didn't get to the rebuttal yesterday. You had just wrote the counterclaim.
This is I put better land in the woods for the Native Americans. That's why they should have been.
Hold on, please. Hello. Hi. Yes. No. Only third person. He, she, they, them. No. They cannot use you or your. And it is hard, but they can't use it. Mm-hmm. Bye. Okay, explain to me again, Zach.
We're not putting this with our...
Yes, you are. Because remember, you should have started your sentence with some people believe that they had better land And then your rebuttal one is the, although some believe this, that's where you put this. Does that make sense? Okay, good.
Am I really trying?
What are they talking about? Funny. But he doesn't have any friends to do that, right? Oh, I thought you said Dominic.
No, AJ.
AJ has a fan account?
So we made a fan account for him. He has no idea who.
Sydney made a fan account.
No, I didn't. No, that was her friend. I asked her, but I didn't make it.
You asked her to make you one? I'm just joking.
Is it like an Instagram account? Oh, okay.
Okay, I didn't think she'd actually.
Yeah, the JCs have a YouTube channel, and she has a YouTube channel on makeup.
I don't have it anymore.
I used to have an account with my dog.
She's so angry.
Why are you getting so bad? We're not like saying.
Okay, let's move on to transition.
That I have it. I remember one.
Okay. All right, I'm waiting on you. Waiting on you.
Landon.
Okay. Hello, Mr. Arnold. Oh, you know, always.
That was so kind of you.
Great. Okay, I've already had him today, so. No. Well, he missed an entire unit, so there wasn't really anything I could do. But if I think of something, I'll send it down. Okay, so when we do our synthesis, you are going to be expected to synthesize 3 times in your paper. And the synthesize is the elaboration part. So what synthesizing means is it means that you are going to take information that you already have in your research and you are going to combine it with things that you already know to make a new interpretation. So, please see my clicker.
Yeah.
There it is. Okay. So, I can't move too far. Synthesizing involves combining new information with existing knowledge to form an original idea or interpretation. It's basically you reading your research and putting it in your own words. Essentially, that's what a synthesis is. It's telling me, okay, yes, I have this piece of evidence, but why does that support your claim? And you can't use, same thing as before, you cannot use any first or second person pronouns. I, we, I think, we think, us, no. No. So, here's an example. You have new information of textual evidence. So you all have this. You all have textual evidence. It says an estimated 20% of drivers are sending or receiving text messages while behind the wheel, according to a nationwide insurance survey. And according to another poll, that number skyrockets to 66% when drivers 18 to 24 are isolated. The practice, especially popular among young people, is exactly a deadly toll. So, that would be our piece of textual evidence. Now, I have background knowledge because I was once 18 through 24, and yes, I have texted while driving, okay? My mom put a lock on my seatbelt that if you have to keep your phone in it.
Yeah.
And let it buckle your seatbelt.
That's just as bad as drinking and driving.
Yeah, I've heard that. I haven't done any more. Simmer down. I'm 25 now. I don't have to do that.
Have you drank and drive?
Yeah, I'm a
What?
Have you drank? Have you?
No.
Have you ever drank?
No.
Shut up. She's able to do that. She's of age.
I've been of age for 5 years. Teenagers growing up in this century are used to communicating via text. I also know that this age group tends to be the most distracted by their electronic devices. Paired with driving, texting can be a lethal act. So that's my background information. I have my background information and I have my new information of my textual evidence. So together, I take that and I put it in my synthesis. When inexperienced drivers get behind the wheel, they're already a potential threat to other drivers, simply because they're inexperienced. When texting while driving is added to the equation, it only heightens the danger. If there is not going to be an overall law created against texting while driving, then at the very least, a law should be implemented to ban teenagers and young drivers from the tempting act. This age group, though experienced in the technological world of texting, is not experienced when behind the wheel. So, when you are doing your synthesis, and that means your elaboration, you are going to be you'll have about 2 to 3 sentences. 1 is usually too short, 4 is usually way too much. Okay, so 2 to 3 is kind of that golden zone there. So we're going to practice some of these together. So we're going to pretend like my claim in my thesis statement is, schools should begin later in the morning and end later in the afternoon. The evidence to support that would be that middle school students perform better on tests when they begin school at 9:30 compared to 7:30. So I want you to think about this. How can you put this evidence into your own words? How can you put this into your own words? Sydney?
If school starts later, they will do better in school.
Okay, very good. If school started later, they would do better in school. Do you want to add anything to it? Jace?
They would stay awake.
Okay, so students would be more likely to stay awake. Okay? Here's my example. This proves middle school students need more sleep to perform well on the many tests that are given throughout the year. Students tend to fall asleep in class when they are required to get up too early in the morning. So did we cover everything that's in here? Yeah. Okay.
That's why we shouldn't get homework.
We had Sydney's response and we had Jace's response, which basically came together to make that synthesis. Here's another one. Students on school sports teams should be required to carry a certain grade point average, or GPA, in order to play. So the evidence to back that up is that at Washington High School, 78% of students polled feel more motivated to get good grades because it is a requirement for school sports. And I'll give you an example. Last block, Chris Taylor told me that he had an excellent grade point average during football season because Mr. Brady said, you're not playing if you don't get this project done. And so he was motivated a bunch of ways. He was motivated because he said his parents motivated him and were basically hounding him about it. He had Mr. Brady also asking him, did you turn in that project? Did you turn in the project? Did you turn in the project? And then he also had the threat of not being able to play his favorite sport because his grade point average wasn't high enough. Okay? So that's an example. You are absolutely welcome to include examples in your synthesis. So how would you sum this up in your own words? How would you sum up this evidence in your own words? Think about it for a second. How would you sum up this evidence in your own words?
Way to break the
Dominic,
ice,
thank
buddy.
you.
When you put something that someone likes at risk, they tend to make sure that
Perfect. When you put something at risk to a student athlete or anyone, a student that is in any sort of extracurriculars, it doesn't necessarily have to be athletics. What are you laughing at?
The bag.
Bad.
What bag? It says turnip for what? It has turnips on it.
I also have one that says every day I'm Brussels with Brussels sprouts. And then I also have another one that has tomatoes on it that says healthy from my head to my toes. Okay, so then we could also add in that example of, we could also add in Chris's example. A specific student at Ray Peck East Middle School also said that he feels more motivated from his parents, his teachers, or from his parents, his coach, and from just the sheer threat of it being taken away. So here's the example. Many schools set academic requirements in order to inspire student athletes to do well in school. Students will be more prepared for higher education and a career. Okay, next one. Schools should be year-round. Research shows that students of all ages show natural progression of content knowledge if they attend school all 12 months of the year with short intermittent breaks. And I'll give you another example. Mrs. Raines, my co-teacher during 4th block, her son actually teaches at a year-round school. And they go to school the exact same amount of days as we do. They just have 3 to 4 days off here. They have 3-day weekend here, 4-day weekend here. They have a summer break that's like 3 weeks long. They have, Miss Range, you'll have to tell me if I'm butchering this, but they still go to school that same amount of time that we do. They just have it broken up more. They may have a longer spring break. They may have a longer winter break. They just go all year round. Yes, Noah?
They have nothing to look forward to. Like, we're like, oh, summer. We don't have
They don't
to
have
go to school.
you don't look forward to 4-day weekends?
No, but you don't get to go like, oh, I'm going to put all this work in just so I can get that 3-month break.
Well, something that research has shown that you do better if you are at school all the time. Okay? So how can I sum this up in my own words? I'm not going to ask you again because that was an awkward silence. So, here's the synthesis. Students forget important skills they have learned when they are off of school for long periods of time, say 3 months at a time. If students went year-round, teachers would not have to spend as much time reviewing. And I want you to think about that. Think about the bell work that how much time we spend looking at subject and verbs at the beginning of the year, something that you've already learned. Okay, we have to go over constructive response again. That takes up time. Okay, and we may not even get to the Holocaust this year because we have so much that we have to get through before we can get to that. And the Holocaust is like the thing that advanced loves to do, and we don't know if we'll get there this year. So because we have to go back and we have to reteach. So that's just a thought. Okay, last one. Violent video games should be banned. The evidence is that teenagers that spend more than 10 hours a week playing violent video games with violent content are 5 times more likely to engage in a fight. Now, this evidence is not saying that everyone that plays video games that are violent are going to be in a physical fight. That's not what it's saying. It's just saying that people are more likely to engage in a physical fight with that background of violent video games. Yes, Sydney?
Well, there's this episode of Criminal Minds when, like, there was this little boy, like, he was playing the violent video game, and then, like, maybe, like, a week later, like, the exact same situation happened in real life.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's obviously fiction, but I'm sure that things like that have happened. Like, that's what this evidence is trying to say. So when you go and you do your elaboration on it, you would go back and you would say things like that. Can you guys stop talking back there? I'm having a hard time talking over you. Thank you. No, that goes for you as well. When they go back and they look, I don't remember what I was saying, never mind. But here's the synthesis. Kids model what they have seen. Children are impressionable and will exhibit behaviors they have been exposed to. Okay? It's kind of like monkey see, monkey do kind of a thing. You learn from, a lot of times your political beliefs are the political beliefs of your parents because that's the only thing you're exposed to until you get out into the real world and things like that. Okay, so that wasn't an opportunity for you guys to talk. My goodness, this is going to take forever. Okay, here's an example of what your final paragraph would look like. Okay, you are going to, at this time, get out your body paragraph number 2, outline. I'm sorry, number 1. I don't know why I said number 2. Sorry.
It's cool. It's cool.
Now, we are going to start with our topic sentence. Now, if you remember, the last paragraph before we start this, the last sentence that your audience is going to read is the Native Americans should or should not be banned, or be relocated to Western lands because of blank. So we don't want to put our claim and our reason in the exact same way. So, how can we reword that thesis statement? Why were they being removed? Zach. Okay. Okay. So what did they do in order to move the Native Americans? What did Andrew Jackson do? Very good. He signed the Indian Removal Act. So here's what we came up with first block. This was the I guess you could say the guide that we came up with first block. The Indian Removal Act of 1830 was beneficial or non-beneficial because, and then you put your reworded reason. Now, before you start this, you need to make sure that you put a transition. You have to have a transition. I have 3 listed on the board. Remember that this is your first paragraph, so do not start with second or lastly. Okay? You need to pick one of those 3. If you can come up with another one, please share it with us because we would love to add to the list. Okay?
First of all.
First of all, that works.
I would like to say first.
No, you cannot use I.
No.
You were so confident in that, though.
She
I like it.
was.
I like it. So, when you put in beneficial or non-beneficial, you need to make sure that it supports your thesis. So if you said that they should not be moved, which one would you go with? Non-beneficial. If you said that they should be moved, which one would you go with? Beneficial. And you need to make sure that you reword your reason. Okay? It has to be reworded because the last thing that your audience just read was your original reason. They don't want to read the same thing twice. Okay? So you need to make sure that you reword that reason. Yes, Noah?
There's a difference in those questions though, because if it's beneficial, then
You can change it. That's fine.
then they should have moved. But if it was right or not, then they shouldn't.
I think that's what we were getting at with the word beneficial. But if you want to change it up, absolutely do that.
Instead of non-beneficial, can we say not beneficial?
Sure, absolutely. You can switch it up any way you want. Yes, Jace.
Even if we said they should not have been removed,
Uh-huh.
can we still say it was beneficial?
No. We're going to keep the same opinion throughout the whole thing.
See, that was kind of like my question because I was saying they're kind of like 2 different questions.
Yeah. But you're free to change it if you'd like. Uh-huh. You're rewording your reason. And you can find your reason right here on your big outline.
You just have to reword it.
No, it has to be the same one. Has to be the same reason, because you want to keep with the same reason throughout your whole paper. Good question.
Wait. So, with the claim and reason,
Uh-huh.
we have to, at the top of the sentence, we don't reword our thesis.
No, we're not rewording the thesis.
So,
Well, I guess you could say technically we are, but I'm kind of giving you the rewording.
you're saying Native Americans, say I said Native Americans should not be removed from
Uh-huh.
the land because they were forced to walk the Trail of Tears.
Uh-huh.
You want me to put the same reason because they were forced to walk the Trail of Tears?
I want you to reword that part.
Because they were forced to walk 4 months or 2 months. She told us 2 months.
I thought it said 4 months.
I thought you said it said 2. That's
Well,
what
on
you
the
said
multiple
yesterday.
choice thesis, until it states it repeatedly.
Doesn't matter though. If we're wrong, we're wrong. It's not like we're going like OJ's trail where they'll be like, ooh, I'll throw them away.
Okay, so it says that it was 2,200 miles. Okay, it said 2 months, not 4 months. Well, it says that they anticipated it would take about 2 months.
So just put it back.
2 to 4 months sounds good. What are you talking about?
They're making a lot of noise for a second.
Oh, they're doing a sign.
I don't know.
Miss White. So, I changed the word on it because I wanted it to be different than my thesis and my question. So I just said the Indian removal act of 1830 was not fair or was it?
Works for me. Did you put your because though? You got to add your reason.
I am. I just
Okay.
want to make sure my intro.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
I said Native Americans should not have been removed from Western lands because they had begun to assimilate to the English culture and religion. And I said here that Native Americans had begun to accept the transition to another way of life.
That works perfectly.
Electric love.
Yeah. Electric love. Literally all I know of the song. Something about your electric love. It's like love. There you go. It's like that. All right, let's move on to our second row. Now, you are going to go ahead and put your evidence in, and your evidence needs to have a starter before it. You cannot just put your evidence on the paper. Doesn't work like that. You have to have a starter. So I've given you 4 here to choose from. I don't care which one you start with, but you need to pick one. Okay? And you're going to write your evidence with a sentence starter on your evidence row. Okay? So you're writing it right here. On your evidence row, you're writing your sentence starter and one of your pieces of evidence.
And this is, your evidence is supporting your claim?
Yes. Yes. And don't forget your citation at the end.
Well, obviously, the counterclaim, because there's other evidence.
That's a claim.
The counterclaim would be what it is. No, she's like, so, but then I don't really know.
No. Don't put just PBS. Yeah. Do not do the www.historychannel.com. Just do History Channel. Okay?
Or history.com or whatever.
Yeah, whatever it is.
So we're only using 3 of our quotes. Okay there, bud. Wait, just grading?
Yes.
Can we add like more quotations and evidence to this?
No.
Just grading it suck because you have to go look up everything.
Oh, no. Mystery B already did that.
Oh, she looked through our
Start.
Wait,
What if-
they looked up everything?
That's what I did on your original research.
Yeah, that's what you do. You do F12 or F whatever.
Yeah,
it is.
you just copy and paste it into Control F.
But you still have, but like since our database of this cards, you had to write it down. You have to like look at that and decide.
What I do is I just type the quote in with quotation marks around it, and if it comes up, then you're good. If it doesn't come up, then not good.
Wait, can we say according to the article?
No. Put the article's name.
No, that's what we can we put
Oh.
according to the
That's what it
article.
said.
Oh, yes, sorry. I thought you meant you just wanted to put the article. No.
Nope.
Let's go ahead and identify what article we're talking about.
Wait, Miss White, why didn't you paint your nails?
I didn't have time. I got sucked into Impractical Jokers.
Hey, okay, that show's pretty good, but I feel like they do the same thing every episode.
Oh my gosh, it was the one where oh my gosh, I was crying. Murray, his punishment was he had to, they told him that he was going to do a Dracula monologue, and so he was all dressed up like Dracula, and then a gospel choir comes out, and like he had, oh my gosh, it was so funny. It was so funny. And I think that was the same one where they had all of Joe's dogs, and they had to do like, it was hilarious. Ice Pop, yeah.
My favorite one today, I don't remember what episode it's on. I think it's the one where they hang them from the crane and beat them. But I like the one where they're hiding behind the food counter and they're saying stuff.
I like the one where they make him skydive, like with the bird.
Oh yeah, Friday.
Yeah.
And he's like in Sal there and they chase him with the black.
Yeah,
I feel like Murr loses a lot.
he does.
No,
Him and
Joe
Sal.
loses a lot.
Joe does not. Joe never loses.
Whenever Joe gets punished, it's amazing. Joe probably has the best punishment. Like last week.
No, it goes
if you finished with your evidence, you can go ahead and move on to your second elaboration. I'm sorry, your first elaboration. And these are some possible sentence starters for your elaboration. This is where you're going to be doing the synthesis. This is the synthesis part, where you are explaining in your own words what that evidence means and how it relates back to your claim. Now, how many sentences did I tell you it should be? 2 to 3. Okay? Your synthesis or your elaboration needs to be 2 to 3.
And how long does our evidence have to be?
It's just one piece of evidence.
In the article it states in our
And then your quote. That's it, yeah. And that's as far as we're going to get today, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it off.
Can I watch this